happiness coach. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, I want to talk about something, that sometimes we all feel, actually, not sometimes, most of the time we feel it. Sometimes when we talk about the physical pain, we learned how to live with it. We can take painkillers and we can survive.
Yes.
But the psychological pain is more than the physical pain, because sometimes when psychologically you are not in peace of mind, for example, or you have some problems, and definitely we are all suffering problems, you feel that you don't want to do anything, you feel frustrated, you feel that you have pain all around your body, and definitely you're not going to achieve anything.
Yes.
Am I right or wrong?
You're so right. And also you can develop psychosomatic diseases from the psychological pain.
And spread negative energy all around.
Of course. But the problem is actually when you start developing the psychosomatic diseases, so you have all the pains, and when they have the checkup, they can't find it. I agree with you, because the other pain, we've learned to deal with it. We take a painkiller, but there is no painkiller in reality for distress or stress. So, yeah, that's why I went to this learning of emotional freedom techniques, because it is a way to release those pains in a very gentle way, in a very easy way. So I started learning that.
So, can you tell us, of course, you have an economic background and you worked in many economic and business, of course, positions before shifting to this career. Can you tell us why you did this and the relation between the career you were in and the career you shifted to?
Okay, so the short story is I graduated actually in '79. My MA was in '82, and I had a book then in economics very early in life. I was very serious about economics and finance. I worked for over 30 years in the financial world, working many projects, including the Egyptian Stock Exchange, and also I had my own office for financial advisory. I also worked with UNDP, World Bank, all this stuff. Then I got quite sick, and the sickness I got has to do with being stressed. The funny thing is I didn't even recognize that I was stressed. When I remember, I thought this was life. You run, things happen. This is life. And my sickness was rheumatoid arthritis. It made me stay home. It was so painful. I was on medication. And when you're desperate, you look for a solution. So at one point, my sister suggested I try something, an energy healing modality. And I did. Now for me, I was very lucky. In 3 months, I was totally off medication and totally off this disease that is supposedly not curable. Rheumatoid arthritis is not curable. It goes from bad to worse. Of course, this made me think, wow, I need to read about this. I read a little bit about what I was given, but then as I did that, I was by chance, I found on the internet something called emotional freedom technique. And to me, that was a huge eye-opener. I forgot to tell you, I minored, I'm an AUCN. I minored in psychology, but I had forgotten, 30 years, I totally had forgotten. One time I woke up and I said, oh my God, I took psychology long ago. So this seems to interest me from long ago. And emotional freedom technique just found me on the internet, and I started watching, and I was so amazed that you can release all these stresses in an easy way yourself. It's a self-help.
So it is a skill that we can learn. Can you tell us more about it?
It's a tool.
Just brief us how we can work on this to anyone who's watching, even to us.
Yes.
Or the
such techniques
of psychological comfort.
Yes. The technique, I've been doing an awareness program since 2010. Giving so many lectures and getting on TVs and radios. But the technique, the easiest way to understand the technique, it's called acupuncture for emotions. So, that you can take acupuncture for physical diseases. Imagine that those emotions, the sadness, the hate, the frustration, the resentment, all those bad emotions, the negative ones, you can do acupuncture for it and remove them, totally remove them. So the event happened, but you don't have the emotions with it. And that's why I was like, oh my God, this is an invention, and it is a breakthrough. People say it's like when they found penicillin. It's a breakthrough for humanity. You have doctors like Dr. Merkel, he's a very well-known doctor in the States, Dr. Oz, who say this is the missing link in medicine. Because suddenly they found something to release the stresses and those emotions. Because doctors, they always stop at, oh, you're stressed, go get unstressed. They tell you what to do, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to give it to you. I mean, they might give you a medicine, but they say, oh, you're too stressed in your work. And Okay,
So this is the technique.
This is a technique, it's a tool, it's called emotional freedom techniques. And it is actually, you're hitting certain parts of your body, like they're acupoints. Acupoints are the points.
So it is not
acupuncture
virtual,
uses.
you are talking acupuncture, acupuncture.
But using your fingers. That's the amazing part. Because
So
then it
tell us,
becomes safe.
this is my question.
Yes,
Tell me
you
more
are-
about the technique. How are you doing this?
You are touching, you're talking in a certain way because it mixes in a science that came also into psychology in the 80s called neuro-linguistic programming. So it's acupuncture plus neuro-linguistic programming, but one and one don't always make two. One and one made something much bigger, and also he discovered it by chance. And we touch 8 points in our body, and we talk in a certain way, and somehow that emotion...
Which 8 parts?
Okay, we can show them. One is the beginning of the eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, under the lips.
The mouth, chin.
Yeah, it's right under the lips, and the inner part, and then on your chest. It's actually, there's this, if you do this, you get it. Then under your arm,
yes.
10 centimeters under your arm, and the last one is right here on top of your head. And they're the same 10 points. That's the thing. You only need those 10 points for everything. If you have a problem, you hate someone, if you have resentment, if you're angry, you will
So
not
I mean,
believe
I
how
can
fast.
do it for myself? I can just...
Yes, that's what amazed me, because in my mind, going to doctors and telling your story sometimes isn't so nice, you don't want to, but this amazing self-help, of course if the problem is really big, you need some help, but you can start with it, and we can even give a small exercise to your viewers if you'd like. So they can try it right now, and you can try it with me, because it only takes about 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and you keep tapping. Now, I'm not promising that huge traumas will go away in 5 minutes. They might take 3-4 hours of your life. You might 10 minutes every day, but definitely it'll go away. What happens is these things that happen to us, like you're angry that your boss talked to you badly. A lot of emotions happen in your body. These are physical things. There's an energy in your body that goes crazy, okay? And it's like floating in your body, going around, around, around. What happens with the tapping, it does what we call pattern interrupt. It interrupts the mind from doing that pattern. So like, he yelled at me, doesn't matter. He yelled at me, doesn't matter. It keeps like telling the mind and the body, stop that. It's a mind-body tool. Because what happens, I didn't even realize that everything happens to us, we think it's just psychological. No, there's a huge physical aspect of everything. So let's do a small exercise right now. If you think of yourself right now, for a second, you can close your eyes. You're on a beach, it's lovely, the sun, the birds, you can hear the waves, and look what happens to your mind. If you do it at home, you'll see that your face will smile, it will relax, although you're sitting in the studio. And then if I say no, think of yourself in an airport and they're making you, open all your bags and the man is very rude, and see what happens to your body. A lot of people, they say this, they say my heart is pounding, my stomach is this. Physical, right away. An event and goes to physical.
So is the technique the same, for example, if I want to get rid of anger or I want to get rid of the negative emotions, or it differs from one feeling to another?
This is the breakthrough, because right before, as science is always, it's someone building on top of something. Before EFT, it's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, there was a psychiatrist who did another study that was called TFT, thought field therapy, he called it. It was the same, but it was a technique for every single emotion, had like a catalog. So of course you could not pass it on to the regular person on the street, because it was very complicated. You have a headache, let me look. You're mad at your mom, let me look. He's an engineer, Stanford engineer, came along, studied everything, and something in his mind said, okay, let me see which 8 points have all the emotions. And he put the protocol that we hit all of them. So let's say anger is a certain point, but I'm not going to tell you which one. You just do the 8 every time. So we teach it to a child of 3, who also are stressed, by the way. Children are stressed very much now. So you start teaching it to your kids, like, let's do this, honey. And they grow up with this tool. And this is my dream, to have it in schools and to have it in everybody's life, just like we learned to wash our face years back.
So, talking about it, just to make it more clear, for example, that whenever we feel that we are under stress or we cannot control ourselves, because I think this is the most important part, to control your anger. Because definitely when you take any action under stress, you will destroy everything. So the point is that we can just do this exercise, as you mentioned,
yes.
right? And what about the fingers? Because you talked about acupuncture as well.
Yeah, what I'm saying is the amazing thing is we don't need the needles. They found out that you can just touch and do the same. Because if we needed the
Just
needles,
touching,
just touching
like this,
activates. But also because he chose 8
or
points.
we have a certain way of touching.
We call it tapping. You just touch lightly. You just tap like this as you.
And it has to be in order.
No, it doesn't, because the 8 points are all connected to something called the meridian system. It's just activating the eight points. What he did, this engineer Gary Craig, is he chose 8 points that are close to the surface. I think there's 600 points on our body. He chose very close so that you can activate them very easily. And that is the miracle of the story. And number 2, we don't need the needles. Because if we needed the needles, we could not pass this on to everybody. It would be very delicate. You need to be trained well, etc., etc. So this is why they say it's revolutionary. And it's not only me. You have Harvard Medical School doing a lot of research on it. You have the US Army, the UK Army, of course the Israeli Army. It's in a lot of areas in the world. It was in 30 languages, not 30 countries when I started in 2009. And I was like, oh my God, and we don't know about this? Because, 30 languages around the world is a lot of languages. They used it extensively in Rwanda. They sent like 10 women to help the whole country get rid of all that huge trauma. This is serious. You can release a lot of traumas, huge traumas from a whole population by just teaching a lot of people. And that is what I'm doing now.
This is the
I'm
only
training.
technique, or do we have more things?
This is the technique. It's simple, but it's deep. It's simple. It's like water. You can use water to generate